Okay, here's a quote I got from this guy. He created this thing called the theory of relativity or something, E equals MC, whatever. Um, the world we have created is a product of thinking. It cannot be changed without a change in thought. Pretty basic stuff. I mean, it doesn't really take an Einstein to figure that out. Okay, let's go. I'm Jacob Smith, and this is Observant Attention. The power of the mind, the pinnacle of human existence. If ancient history has taught us anything, it's that we must protect it at all costs. That all tools we need lie within the 15 centimeters of gray matter between our ears. So I know I'm not claiming to be a self-improvement expert, nor do I really want to be. And I'm not trying to be a life coach or a guru or this philosophical mind, but tell me I'm wrong when I say that we live in a world that's becoming harder and harder to find ourselves in. To deal with emotions of stress, to control anxiety and depression, to limit addiction. If anything, this podcast is a revolt against modern day society's grasp on our attention, our unhappiness. I want people to be able to look inwardly and know there's a deeper solution to all of this. To know that all the issues we haven't dealt with in the past are because they continue to get buried and buried and buried by distraction instead of releasing them within. Things like social media haven't taken over our strengths yet, just our weaknesses. And I don't know which one is worse anymore. So why am I doing this? Because we need it. We need to learn that our five senses that we've learned to live by are simply ideological standards that hold no value to happiness, to the feeling of success and abundance and fulfillment. Look at society, okay? Perception of bullshit limitations. A generation of mental health issues that has only just begun. And this will continue to kill our children because they believe that life resides on their 6-inch screens, that it's based on followers, likes, on acceptance and others and status, a fear-based living standard that is ever so fleeting because of the emptiness behind material value. They will continue to conform and accept addiction and useless habitual conditioning to comfort and lusting and wanting something more, something they don't have, something outside of them, to fix what's inside of them. But that's the illusion of it. That's the illusion that it comes from somewhere else. No. It comes from within you. So let's use the pandemic for an example. Regardless of if this is a flesh-eating, toxic, deadly virus killing mass amounts of people hourly, or just a minor respiratory issue that may only be an issue for those at risk, we are terrified to see our family members. We are scared to touch things and live normal lives. Because why? Fear controls. Exactly. I talked about the limited mind simply being a perception. This virus isn't scaring you. What's driving fear into you is your perception of the possibility of its impact. It's not the virus. It's the idea of it. And we are consciously enforcing limitations within our own lives. We're living within the boundaries of somebody else's ideas of how we should act. And if we act outside of that, that's not acceptable. Look, regardless of the pandemic's reasoning or validity, be aware of what it's doing to our children, our human rights, our addictions, our mental health. I just got off the phone with my cousin the other day. I mentioned him in one of my earlier podcasts, and he was talking about children, the mental health in children. And it hit me so deep. And we live in an age now where parenting by just love isn't good enough parenting anymore. You have to always consciously, continuously be a step ahead of your kid who's learning at a faster rate than you are. How scary is that? It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought to think of where the future of mental health is going. It's a joke if you don't think otherwise. It's a joke. Happiness doesn't come from material items or events or trips or things happening around us. Those are great for the moment, but that's because the moment is all we have. Every memory you have of that experience from then on in is now still spent in the moment. So every time you think about it, because the reason we have good experiences is so we can have good memories, you're still thinking about that memory in the moment. So now happiness comes from our perception of how those things made you feel, personal and different to each and every person. That's why your mom can remember stuff that you forget from when you were a teenager because she had a more impactful perception of that memory. It comes from harnessing the power of thought and creating an inner world that can't be shaken by matter. Because matter doesn't fucking matter. Here's a quote from a book I'm reading, Clarity by Jamie Smart. No free ads. Addictions are an instantaneous relief from habitual patterns of superstitious thinking. Okay, let me break that down. Addictions are an instant relief from fearful thinking. Ironically enough, we are actually addicted to that very superstitious thinking. That very superstitious, fearful thinking that we're trying to escape from. And then everything else in our lives takes us further and further away from how we should actually perceive reality. Only if we knew it was a state of mind, right? Yeah. The power of thought doesn't begin to explain the true meaning of the phrase. If we looked at life like we're living now, but understood that it's all bullshit, it would seem like an unbelievable nightmare. And maybe that's why we avoid the truth. But I'm here to tell you that it's the absolute furthest thing away from scary. The only terrifying part is that we aren't far off from becoming completely trapped in the idea that we never had control. Funny how we write down or keep notes and reminders of stuff we can't forget. Important to-do lists and phone calls we need to make. Yet we never take notes and reminders for stuff that will actually make us a little bit happier and make life a little bit easier. We don't write down things that strike a chord or make a difference. Why is that? I mean, if I had to do something later in the day, I would write it down. Or if I had to make a call, I'd write it down. Or whatever, if I needed to return something, I'd write it down. Because those are things you need to do. Imagine you did that with things you needed to be. It's like, oh, I gotta be positive today. Write it down. Be positive. It's kind of like a little mental hack. It's just plays to the relevance of how powerful your mind is and why we misuse it. We said awareness is everything, and it is. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is the absence of free will. So then, if ignorance is bliss, then lack of free will would be bliss. Your acceptance of limitation would be bliss. Awareness of the power within your mind gives us the chance to harness it, to control our thoughts and emotions, actions, behaviors, beliefs, conscious and subconscious, to become so connected to ourselves that we reach the unknown. The unknown is it's the unknown. You don't know what the unknown is. It's the unknown. So, imagine you spent your whole life up until this point believing that you could eat peanuts because of an allergy diagnosed early on. Then all of a sudden, you accidentally had a handful one day and nothing happened. You just spent 30 years believing something that wasn't even true. How long after that moment would it take you to be convinced that you were living a lie? Even after you just dummied about 15 peanuts and your body never responds, probably a while. Because you have conditioned yourself your entire life to believe one thing, no matter the evidence. So it's the same idea with awareness. We believe all the power lies within the material world. I mean, it matters in a sense. I'm just saying, how long will it take you to understand that your perception of matter is what really matters? How long can we allow our free will be governed by anything else other than what's in here? What's in your hat? You want to know how powerful your brain is? Okay, everybody's done this, okay? Everybody. Everybody's had that amazing business idea or invention, and it felt like a light bulb went off in your brain when you thought about it. Then your brain began to form pathways to trigger everything you knew about how to create the new idea. And in that moment, you began to fire your brain in such a way that it signaled the chemical of excitement and passion to run throughout your body. Nothing happened to you. Nothing happened in your outer environment. You triggered that emotion in your brain and in your body with a thought and an idea. And to the passionate person, you have now given your body a taste of what the future will feel like. And in biological terms, you started to reprogram your genes. This is scientifically known as epigenetics because you are now above the gene. You manipulated your body to respond to a new mind. And this new mind is now a map of the future. How powerful is your mind to be able to manipulate your body biologically in one moment? Imagine we controlled this and did this all the time. Imagine you sat in one spot only thinking about what you wanted to be in the future, allowing your body to feel accordingly. The more you do it, the more genes you signal. The more the body becomes conditioned emotionally to recognize a new pattern. If we took time to sit with our thoughts of the future, to allow our mind to understand what we do and don't want our bodies to understand, we begin to create an entirely new biological makeup. Sounds an awful lot like meditation now, doesn't it? I'm really thirsty today, apparently. The environment signals the gene. I want you to remember that. You don't have to understand it, just remember it. The environment signals the gene. So, create a new environment by creating a new perspective. Because all environment is how we view it, right? Perception. I'm doing something right now for myself that only requires my brain. I don't need any other tools. I don't need to go into a classroom. I don't need people to validate or assist in my path. I'm not looking for someone, something, somewhere to bring me happiness because I know it's within me. It's within the power of my mind. And I'm not any special than anyone else, and I'd be arrogant to think so. I just understand that every tool we need to survive is available to us. And when you find out that you have all the tools, you stop caring about what people think. You start giving more and loving more and needing less. You begin to find patience and appreciation and gratitude and excitement in everything new. And the more you act on those impulses, the more you begin to shape yourself in all sorts of new ways. I talk a little bit about how it's not the end goal of perfecting thought and emotion. It's the journey of growth and understanding it. And if you're not sure if you'd want that for yourself, ask yourself if you want that for your kid. And then ask yourself, now why would I want that for my kid and not want that for myself? Is it the work that goes on behind it? Is it the work I need to put in? It'd be one thing if I came on here spewing a bunch of disagreeable topics that don't hold any value. But you can't dispute the creation of change. I've had people reach out to me and tell me the most amazing stories in the last few weeks. Moments, and we'll call them spiritual awakenings, for lack of a better term, who all say the same thing. No matter good or bad, crazy or plain, profound or painful, it always comes down to how they felt in the moment and how it carried them into the future. It's the experience that created emotion, or the environment that signaled the body into a memory of how it made them feel. What they think it looked like, what they believe the purpose of it was, and how they're going to use it moving forward. All created by the very same mind that brought their ass there in the first place. Now go allow yourself 2 minutes to once again connect all the dots. Time to digest how powerful your brain in action is, how impactful your thoughts can be on your mental stability, how it can program your body chemically into disease or dis-ease, how it can signal new genes in new ways to push you towards a new genetic outcome, how it can change the molecular state of water in your body. Your brain is so powerful that it created and will continue to create everything in your life until you can't even breathe anymore. And then it will create more. Control your perspective, control your life. If you have any questions or would like to reach out, feel free to reach out, expand on some thoughts. Like, I had people, like I said, reaching out and saying like, oh man, I just had this crazy thing, a crazy story, whatever. I love hearing that stuff. I love interacting with people and meeting new people and talking to people. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Gmail, all out of observant attention. And one last thing. I really need this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Even if it wasn't me talking, I'd be promoting it. So if you have a sec, it would go a long way to subscribe, download, and review these episodes, as that 5-minute gesture means the world to this information. Imagine all you had was your brain. Thank you so much for joining me today and on this journey. Stay inspired.